Okay, so the recording has started. So did you get a chance to go through yesterday's session?
Yeah, yeah. The stub and the driver and all that. I reviewed everything.
Okay, so are you fine? Do you have any query from that?
No,
Okay, everything is fine, right?
yeah, yeah.
Great, great. So the concept of stub and driver, when we are going to use the stub, when we are going to use the driver, so those things are pretty much clear, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay,
If I'm
great.
right, if I'm right, driver is used in mostly in bottom-up testing, and stub is used the other way,
Yeah,
uh, top-down testing.
top-down testing. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I got it. I got it. I think I have it.
Okay, okay, great. Uh, and then what else we had yesterday? Okay,
Approach
so
is
yes. So
the
one thing that I wanted to mention is we were talking about the component testing, right? So
uh,
the component testing is having another name as well, because sometimes it's called as component testing. Sometimes it's called that as unit testing as well. Okay.
yeah.
So remember that whenever they will talk about unit testing, it's same as component testing.
Okay.
Okay. So that was one thing. Other than that, like in integration testing, we had the Big Bang approach, and other than
Mhm.
that, we had the top down or bottom up
Yeah.
approach. So I think that is clear as well.
Yeah.
And then we were
System
talking about
testing.
system testing.
Mhm.
So system testing is basically testing the whole system at a time.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then we had the acceptance testing. So acceptance
Mhm.
testing, we had mainly, this is of two types, alpha testing and beta
Alpha and
testing.
beta testing. Yeah.
Yeah, so in alpha testing, the development team, from the development team, that some people are chosen, and
Mhm.
apart from that, the customer side, they also test the software.
Mhm.
And in case of beta testing, the software is distributed among a selected customers or end users who will actually test it
Mhm.
and give their feedback.
Mhm.
So that was beta testing all about, and that was
Mhm.
all we covered yesterday.
Yeah.
Great. So let me just share my screen. So what's your overall feedback? I mean, do you like how the way, I mean, we are moving forward, or do
Yes.
you expect any changes? Do you have any feedback?
No, no. I am just thinking. I can understand because you're explaining very well. I understand everything, but at the bottom of my mind, how do I apply this to testing? It's like an unknown thing for me because I don't know anything much about computer.
Yeah, so you don't need to know much about computer here, right?
I don't know
Because
about testing. I mean testing.
testing, right? Yeah, so testing, we are learning, right? We have just started. There will be in total 30 sessions, and we are
Mhm.
only on the sixth session.
Mhm.
So at the end of this course, you'll be in a place where you can easily, apply to the jobs, and you will be able to crack the interviews as well. So
Okay.
we are just in the sixth session. So what you need to do is you need to understand the concept, and at the same time you need to revise the things whatever we are
Mhm.
learning. So
Mhm.
and what we are going to do is, after maybe this week is today is the last. So next week we can organize maybe a small exam type of thing, and before that I will let you know. I will suggest you that go through everything whatever we have covered and whatever we are going to cover till today's session. Okay.
Mhm.
uh, Recapitulate those. Okay, go through those in the weekend if you get time, and maybe in
Mhm.
the next week we can arrange a small kind of discussion we can arrange after the assignment and all, so that we'll just go through whatever we have gone through till now. Okay, so
Okay.
that will keep things, that will keep reminding you about all the things. And I think if you continue to do that, if you just can uh, keep things well in your plate. Okay, so if you
Mhm.
can relate the things, so that will
Mhm.
actually help you at the end. You need to understand all the concept, and you should be in a place where you can make the interviewer understand about the concept. Okay, so that
Yeah.
is the whole purpose. So I think like if you're able to understand the things, the next thing that you need to do is you need to relate the things, how things are related. And now if you are able to do that, I think that's fine.
Okay. So
Okay.
I want to tell you next Friday I'm traveling, I'm not here. And the following Monday only, night only I will come back, which means I'm missing 27th and 29th class. I will be in flight in the evenings. After work, I'm leaving.
Okay.
So 27th and 29th, I will only be able to listen to recording because I'm in flight. I won't be able to attend the class.
uh on 27th, my I mean
27th Friday and 29th Monday, I'm not in
okay,
here.
so that means your 27th will be my 28th, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So my 28th is Sunday. So I think it's your 26th.
28th. Yeah, 26th. Yeah. My
Yeah.
20.
So your 26th will be my 27th. So the Saturday's class and your Friday and Monday's class means my Saturday and Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
is anyone in touch with you from Janbest?
No, no, no one.
Uh, no one. Um, okay. Okay, then I will just inform them so that we can, if possible, we'll cancel those two classes.
Yeah.
Okay, because this is going just like 1:1. So if you won't be joining, I don't think it will be good if I just record the class.
Right, right.
That won't be good.
Yeah.
So I'll just
Because I told you before joining, I told Janbas before joining, I have some prior commitments. So this one and then June, I think the first week, June, 7th, 8th, 9th, I'm not in town. So these are prior commitments before coming to Janbas.
okay, okay, that's fine. I'll just I'll talk to them once after today's session. Okay, and I will inform them that at least in the next week about the Friday and Monday. So I'll
Okay.
just inform them, and I'll ask them what I need to do. If they says that I can record the session, but I don't think that is going to be the case. So
Okay.
if they ask me to record the session and provide the recordings to you, that's fine. I'll just record the session and provide the recording to you. If not, then we can just cancel those two classes.
Okay.
And once you are back, so we can continue from 22nd.
Mhm.
Okay.
22nd? No, no. 26th and
Uh,
29th.
sorry. Yeah. So 30th, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We can continue from 30th then. Okay, I'll just talk to them today, and
Okay.
I'll let you know on your Monday.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's start with today's session then. So let's
Mhm.
look at the things that we are going to learn today. So we are going to learn about the test types. What are the different test types? So last day we learned about different levels of testing, right? So at
Mhm.
different level, we do different type of testing as well. So what are those types of testing that we are going to learn today, and mostly today's class will be based on that only. What are the different
Mhm.
type of testing? We have different type of testing like functional testing, non-functional testing, change related testing, maintenance testing, and all. So today's purpose is to understand the different type of testing only.
And these are all applicable currently for testing.
These are all applicable for.
Are these what the QA apply now? I mean, this is just knowledge, or is this what is that these are the types of testing that the QA uses now, the testers use?
No, this these are something that we actually do, because
Okay.
yeah, because the functional testing, the non-functional testing, the maintenance testing, or like the uh, there are different type of testing what we're going to talk today. Like whenever the changes are occurring, at that time we need to do some of the confirmation testing, or if you're finding any bug, at that time we need
Mhm.
to do some confirmation testing or regression testing. So these are like the practical thing that we need to do when we'll be
Mhm.
actually working. But the thing is, you might not get involved in all the things, okay?
Mhm.
Because in non-functional testing we have different type of testing. So it's not the case that every company or every project is doing all these things. They might be
Mhm.
doing the performance testing, or according to the requirement as well, what is the requirement. So normally the functional testing everyone is doing, okay? So functional testing everyone is doing, and that is something that you need to do. So you will get involved in the functional testing. In the non-functional testing, we'll see there are different type of non-functional testing, and it depends on the particular team what non-functional testing they're actually doing. And for non-functional testing like the performance testing or load testing or stress testing, so there is a dedicated team that are assigned normally, who performs those kind of testing. Now if you are assigned to such team as a
Mhm.
tester, so you'll be doing the non-functional testing as well, okay, like the
Mhm.
performance testing or the stress testing and those things. And then apart from that, the retesting or confirmation testing or regression testing, so those also you need to do as a functional tester. Okay, so those you will be doing. And apart from that, this maintenance testing and also these are also a part of functional testing and non-functional testing. So yes, I mean, as a team, if you are in the functional testing team, you need to do that. And if you are in the non-functional testing team, so in that case also in different releases we need
Mhm.
to do the performance or load or stress or security testing. So that you need to do. But again, like, these are all the different type of testing, and it's not mandatory that a particular team will be doing all this type of testing, okay?
Mhm.
But yes, you need to know all this type of testing, and then whichever team you are getting assigned to, accordingly you need to do you'll be involved in doing the testing of that particular type. Okay, so let's start with functional testing. But before I go to the functional testing, I'll just jump over to another topic, because I think uh, you need to know that topic before we come to the functional testing or non-functional testing, okay? So what is black box testing? So this is something that is theoretical, okay? I mean, in functional or non-functional testing, we use this concept, or like in the component testing or like system testing, integration testing, we follow this concept. But the thing is, this is theoretical. We use this theory in our functional testing or non-functional testing, or different level in component testing and like system testing, system integration testing. Okay, so this is something that is important for interview purpose as well. They might ask you what is black box testing, what is white box testing, what is gray box testing. So just for the theoretical perspective or for the sake of interview, you need to understand this.
Mhm.
Okay, so what is black box testing? I'll just check if Gaurav is joining, because if he joins, I'll just tell him up front. Okay, so what is black box testing? So in testing, like as a tester, what is expected from you? So if you are a black box tester, in that case, you are expected that you don't need to know the internal architecture or internal structure or underlying code. You don't need to understand that. You just need to understand what is expected from the application or from the software. Okay, so
Mhm.
if you know what is expected from the software, you will know that what input I need to provide to the software, and then if I am providing that input, what I'll be expecting from the software. And now once you get the output from the software, you need to match whether my expected output is matching with the actual output or not. That's it.
Mhm.
So what does that mean? That does mean that you don't need to understand the internal architecture or internal structure, internal coding pattern of the software to test that software. Because what you need to know is what will be my output, what output I am expecting, and whether the actual output is matching with the expected output or not. Are there any deviation or not?
Can you give me an
Okay.
example? Something
Yes.
I can understand with Amazon or something.
Yes. So let's take the, the common example. Let's take the example of the Amazon.com. So in Amazon.com, suppose you need to test that whether through Amazon.com you are able to purchase a laptop or not.
Mhm.
So that is the requirement. Now
Mhm.
the requirement is when your payment is successful. Okay, so you should be able to purchase the laptop, and your order should be confirmed, and it should be the order ID should be displayed to you. Okay,
Mhm.
so this is one requirement. Another requirement is when you are trying to you know do the payment, and if you click on the back button. Okay, this is the back button, right? I think you should know. So this is the back button or refresh button. If you refresh the page, okay, this is the refresh. So if
Mhm.
you click on the back, or if you refresh the page during the payment, so your payment will be failed and your order will be cancelled. And that order cancellation page should be displayed to you. So these are two requirements that is given to you, and
Mhm.
you need to test it. So when you are yeah, so what you'll do, you'll open the Amazon.com, you'll log into the application, you will search for the laptop. So first time what you'll do, you'll add it to the cart, you will go to the payment page, you will put your card details and all, you will confirm the payment, your payment will be done, your order is confirmed, and your order ID will be displayed to you, right?
Mhm.
So this confirms that the first requirement is fulfilled, that is your expected behavior, right? And the
Mhm.
actual behavior is matching with the expected behavior. Great, your first test case is passed. Now you'll go to the second test case, which talks about you need to log into the application, you need to search for the product, you need to the product details page should be displayed to you. Now you add the product to the cart, go to the cart, do the checkout, you go to the payment details page, you put all your payment card details, and then you click on the refresh button. Okay, now when
Mhm.
you'll be clicking the refresh button, what is expected, that
The
the
page will
payment should be
be.
failed
Yeah.
and the order should be cancelled.
Mhm.
and that confirmation should be displayed to you. Now, so you have tested the requirement. Okay. Now tell me, when you tested this requirement, do you know what coding language the developers have used?
No.
No. Do you know what are the different structure or the underlying architecture of Amazon.com?
No. No.
No. What you know is what are the steps that I need to perform on the application, and then when I perform such and such steps, what output I'll be getting,
Mm.
or what output I'm getting from there,
Mm.
right? And you are validating that output with your expected output.
Yeah.
So you don't know the underlying architecture or underlying components or underlying structure of the application of or the
Mm.
software. So that is black box testing,
Okay.
where you, so if the box is black, then you are not able to see what is underneath it.
Right. Right.
You just seeing it from the outside, and you are checking whether it's working fine or not. So that's why it's
Mm.
called black box testing. So specification based testing technique is also known as black box or input output driven testing techniques, because they view the software as a black box with input and output.
Mm.
The testers have no knowledge of how the system or component is structured inside the box. In black box testing, the tester is concentrating on what the software does, not how it does it. You don't need to know how the data is flowing inside the Amazon.com. That's what you are
Mm.
doing, right? You don't
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
know how the developer has structured the code, how the developer is, flowing, how the data is flowing from one module to another module, how the function calls are happening. You don't need to know anything about this to test the
Mm.
software. So that's why
Mm.
it's called black box software, black
Mm.
box testing. Now,
Right.
both the functional and non-functional testing can be black box testing. Okay. In
Mm.
non-functional testing, what we do, we test the performance, we test the usability, we test the portability or maintainability, all these things. And these things also don't need the knowledge of internal structure of the application or the software. So that's it, these are all black box testing.
Okay.
Now here, okay, I will come to that later. So specification based techniques are appropriate at all levels of testing, right? From component testing through the acceptance testing, the specification based techniques we need to perform. What is specification based testing? You might be having the query.
Yeah.
So specification based technique is basically the requirement specification that we are getting from the customer. So
Mm.
according to the requirement specification, like we talked about it yesterday, right? That while we'll be doing the system testing, we'll look at this user specification or requirement specification, and from that we'll match that whether the requirement of the user is matching with the actual output from the software.
Mm.
So that's how you'll be, I mean, based on the requirement only you will write your test cases. So when you are executing your test cases, that means you are matching the exact output value or the exact actual value with the expected value, right?
Mm.
So that is specification based techniques. So specification based techniques are appropriate at all levels of testing, from component testing to acceptance testing, whereas specification exists. For example, when performing system or acceptance testing, the requirement specification or functional specification may form the basis of the test. What do you mean by the basis of the test? Because you won't be looking at the requirement specification to test, right? From the requirement specification, you will have the test cases. So from the test cases, you will execute those test cases and you will validate whether the actual output is matching with the expected output or not. So how to write these test cases, what are the different techniques of writing these test cases, those will cover in the upcoming classes.
Mm.
Okay. Do you have
Okay.
any query from here?
No. Mm.
Okay, cool. Now let's see what is white box testing. Okay. So white box testing is also called as glass box testing. Okay. Why is it called white box or glass box? Because if it's a glass, then you can see through the internal structure,
Mhm.
right? So you know how the system is structured, how the software is implemented, so you have the knowledge of the internal structure of the system. So that
Mhm.
is when it's called as white box testing.
Mhm.
So in the white box testing, it is mainly done by the developers, but apart from the developers, sometimes it is also the testers that perform the white box testing.
Mhm.
And it is normally performed in the level of component testing. Okay. The black box testing is performed at all the levels of the testing. So these are the things where you need to connect the dots. Okay.
Mhm.
So there are different levels of testing and there are different type of testing. So you need
Mhm.
to understand. So that is the basic. I mean, it's not like you need to recall all this. So if you understand the things, you'll be able to connect them, and that will
Mhm.
actually help you when you will be working or in the interview as well. So
Mhm.
there are different level of testing and there are different type of testing as well. Now you need to connect when this type of testing will be performed at which level. So
Mhm.
when you look at the black box testing, this is actually you are verifying that whether the actual output is matching with the expected output or not. So this has to be done at all the levels. At the component level, you need to verify that. At the system testing level, you need to verify that. At the system integration level, you need to verify that. At the integration level, you need to verify that. So at all the levels, you are verifying or you are doing the black box testing. Now, in case
Mhm.
of white box testing, do we actually need to perform it at all the levels? No, normally not. You need to perform it, or it it normally it is performed at the component testing level. Why? Because at the component testing level, you are building the software, the developers are writing the code, they are, you know, building the structure, and when they are actually doing that, this white box testing is required. Okay, so that
Mhm.
the tester will have the knowledge of the internal structure, and accordingly he can test the code as well.
Mhm.
So let's see what is written here. So structure based testing technique is also known as white box or glass box testing techniques, because here the testers require knowledge of how the software is implemented, how it works.
Mhm.
Okay. In white box testing, the tester is concentrating on how the software does it. For example, a structural technique may be concerned with the exercising loops in the software. So suppose there are different business logic. Okay, that okay, if say a banking software,
Mhm.
okay, and there are different type of customer there, like the priority customer, the business customer, the students, the savings account, the salary account on and all. Okay, and based on this different type of customers, the uh, interest rate, okay, that differs. Okay, so these are different type of business logic. Okay,
Mhm.
and so while implementing this business logic in the code, right, so the code will be written accordingly, according to this business logic, so that the system behaves like that, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Are you getting it?
Yes.
Okay, so now suppose this component has been developed. Okay, now when the component is developed and the developer will test it, or that white box tester will test it, so he needs to also know that how the code is written. So if he
Uh-huh.
knows how the code is written, what is the internal structure of the code, then he should be able to test it in a better way, because he
Uh-huh.
knows that if this will be the input, if I give the input as the student user, then this will be the output. This interest percentage will be applied to the amount, and this should be the actual output, and then he should be able to test it in a better way, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So are you getting what is the difference between the
Yes.
white box
Yeah.
testing and the black box testing? Great.
Yes.
That is all it is required from you. So different test cases may be divided to exercise the loop once, twice, and many times. This may be done regardless of the functionality of the software. So regardless of the functionality, you need to check how the system is behaving internally according to the code, and you need to do it in a loop. Like for different type of user, you need to check how the particular block of code is working.
Mhm.
So structure based techniques can also be used at all the levels of testing, although like it can be used at all the levels of testing, but mostly it is used in the component testing itself, because in the component testing the developers are also included. So developers
Mhm.
use structure based techniques in component testing and component integration testing, especially where there is good tool support for code coverage. Okay, so
Mhm.
code coverage is basically whether the code is covering all the scenarios or not. So that is the code coverage. So basically to test the code coverage, we in component testing and component integration testing, this white box testing is widely used. Okay, so this is
Okay.
also called the structure based technique. So structure based techniques are also used in system and acceptance testing, but the structures are different. For example, the coverage of menu option or major business transaction could be the structural element in system or acceptance testing.
Mhm.
But if in the interview they ask you where this white box testing is used, you should tell them that this is mostly used in the unit testing or component testing, and then the component integration testing. So if you tell them this answer, they will be more satisfied. If you will
Mhm.
tell them that white box testing is used in all the phases or all the levels of testing, that won't be regarded as a good answer. But if you tell them that no, white box testing is mainly used in the component testing or unit testing and component integration testing, because in that case the developers or the tester needs to know the internal structure of the code or the architecture of the code, and that's why in the component testing or component integration testing this white box testing is required. But in the black box testing, the user doesn't need to know about the internal structure of the code, and that is performed at all the levels of testing. So
Mhm.
this is the answer that the interviewer is expecting from you.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay. But
so
does the tester understand the code?
not every time, and the tester is not expected to understand the code as well. But now
Mhm.
different type of roles are coming out, right? Now you know there is a requirement for the black box tester. So black box tester is actually the tester, but if there is some tester who knows the code as well,
Mhm.
who understands the internal structure as well, so that is also good, right? So he can get involved in the component testing or component integration testing in a better way, because we were discussing this topic yesterday as well, right? That the developer who is actually developing the code, he shouldn't test the code,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So if there is a tester who understands the testing, and at the same time he can understand the internal structure or internal coding as well, so in that case he will be able to test the software in a better way, because he knows
Mhm.
how the code is written. So if he knows how the code is written, he can test the software in that way, right?
Mhm.
So there
Mhm.
is, I mean, a requirement of all these things nowadays. Initially there was a requirement of tester only. Now there is another position that is there, like SDET, software development engineer in test. So
Mhm.
you're getting it right, the development engineer
Mhm.
in test. So he should
Mhm.
have the knowledge of the development and testing as well.
Oh.
So this type of roles requires the skills where, or they are expected that you should know the coding, the internal structure as well, and the testing knowledge as well.
Mm.
Okay. So yeah, so that is what I wanted to discuss about white box testing and black box testing. So do you have any query from here?
No, no.
Okay, great. Then I'll just go back to functional testing again. Yeah. So what is functional testing? So functional testing is basically the black box testing. Okay. So in functional testing, what we do, we need to check that whether the expected output given an input, based on the input, whether the expected output is matching with the actual output of the system or actual behavior of the system or not. And in this case, you don't need to know anything about the source code, about the internal structure of the application.
Mhm.
So white box testing is not involved in the functional testing. We need to perform the black box testing here.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and it deals with the specification or the behavior of the application. So whatever requirement you are getting as the requirement specification document from the customer, based on that you will prepare your test cases, and based on the test cases you will test the functionality of the application or of the software. So that is functional testing. Now functional testing can be of two types. One is the requirement based testing, where you have received the requirement from the customer, and based on the requirement document you'll prepare your test cases, and based on the test cases you will test the software, and you will also check the uh, risk criteria as well, right? Risk criteria mean if there are some modules, which modules are very much complicated, so there could be it is possible that there could be a lot of bugs involved in, or defects involved in that particular module. So based on this risks you will prepare, or you will plan your test, and accordingly you will test the software. So that is
Mhm.
requirement based testing. So before I go ahead, I'll ask you a query. I'll ask you a question just to check whether you remember that or not. So what is the difference between the error, bug or defect, and failure?
Bug is where the testers find out the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Error is where the developers, I think, find out, and failure is connected to the customer, and the customer finds a defect.
Okay, okay. So now you see, if we are understanding the in-depth knowledge of testing, you need to correlate the things as well, so that is also required. Now when we are talking about the errors, so at which level do you think the error should be
In
found?
the development phase.
In the development phase, and at
Mm.
which level of testing?
What do you mean?
I mean, there are different level of testing, right, that we were uh, talking about yesterday.
You maybe in the unit testing.
Yes, in the unit testing or component testing, the errors should be captured.
Mhm.
Now, if we look at the types of testing, so this will be captured during the white box testing,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
this is the way you need to relate the things. So
Mhm.
now, if people are asking you what is error, you should explain them that errors are captured during the white box testing. Normally, when the when the unit testing or the component integration testing is performed, at that time the developers do the testing of their code and they find their mistakes there, and that is called an error.
Mhm.
So if your answer is covering all these aspects, then you are going to get the job for sure,
Mhm.
because the other candidates are not going to cover in this way. So
Mhm.
they will only say that, okay, error is basically during the development phase, if the expected behavior is not matching with the actual behavior, we call it as error. But now what you are doing is you are linking the test type with the test level, and then you are giving your answer. So that
Okay.
proves that you have a better understanding of the testing concept,
Mhm.
and there you'll have the advantage over the other candidates.
Mhm.
Now, during if they ask you about the failure, so when do you get a failure? So failure is basically, you can say that when
Customer.
the,
Yeah.
yeah, acceptance testing is done, okay, because
Mhm.
the acceptance testing is done and the
Mhm.
product is on production, and the real users are using it, and then if the actual behavior is deviating from the expected behavior, at that time we call it as a failure.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is the way to relate the things, this is the way to connect the dots. And while giving the interview, if you will prepare yourself like this, so you'll be ahead of the other candidates.
Mhm.
So these are the tricks that we'll continue to talk about, so that you have the idea that when you'll be appearing for the interviews, how your answer should be, and that this will
Mhm.
actually help you to prepare for the interview as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Mhm.
so I was there in the requirement based testing, so that was done. So there is another type of testing which is called as business process based testing. So in the business
Mhm.
process based testing, we don't look at the test cases or actual requirement. So in here what we do is we know the business. So this type of testing is normally done by the people who have all the idea of the business. Okay, normally the
Mhm.
business analyst or people from the customer side itself who knows how the business flow is. Okay, so they might be doing this type of testing, uh, and mostly like at the user acceptance testing level, this type of testing is done, because at the user acceptance testing level, uh, they don't test that system according to the test cases. So in-depth testing is done at which level? At system testing level, because
Mhm.
whatever test cases you are writing for the exhaustive testing, so you are testing all those, you are executing all those test cases, and you are checking everything in the system
Mhm.
testing. But in the acceptance testing, they don't have that much time, right?
Mhm.
So they will just test the application according to their knowledge of the business. So
Mhm.
there they are not, because they have the requirement clear on their mind, so they are not going to look at the requirement document and check those. They will test according to the business process.
Mhm.
So these are the two type of functional testing, and I don't think anyone is going to ask you what are the two types of functional testing. This is just theoretical concept. I mean, this requirement based testing and business process based testing. This is the theoretical concept. This is good to know, but this is not required, for the interview purpose or and all.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's just see what is written here. So functional testing is a type of testing which verifies that each function of the software application operates in conformance with the requirement specification. This testing mainly involves black box testing, and it is not concerned about the source code of the application. This is clear, I think. Nothing is new
Mhm.
written here.
Mhm.
Okay. Finally, functional testing considers the specified behavior and is often also considered as black box testing. That's pretty much clear. This is not entirely true, since black box testing also includes non-functional testing. So we I told you, right, that the black box testing, we have functional and non-functional testing both,
Okay.
right? Because if you are doing the performance testing, so in performance testing also you don't need to know the internal structure. In that case, you will see if hundreds or thousands of users are going to test the uh, uh, or is going to use the software at once at a single instance of time, how the system will behave. If I am only the one who is who is opening the application, and it is taking 5 seconds to open the page, and now if 1,000 users are trying to open the page at the same time, how much time is it taking? Is it taking
Mm,
10 seconds? Is it taking 30 seconds? Is it taking 1 minute, 5 minutes to load? So that is
mhm,
performance testing, right?
mhm,
So in that case also, you don't need to understand what is the internal structure of the code or the application. So that's why
mhm,
black box testing, it can be both functional and non-functional testing.
mhm,
So that's why we can't say that functional testing uh, is same as black box testing. It's not true.
mhm.
So functional testing is a type of black box testing, that you can say.
Okay.
Okay. Function or functionality testing can based upon ISO 9126 be done on focusing on suitability, interoperability, security, accuracy, and compliance. Security testing, for example, investigate the functions relating to detection of threats such as viruses from malicious. This is not required. You can ignore it.
Mm.
Now, requirement based testing and business process based testing. I think you are clear with that. I don't need
Yeah,
to
yeah.
go through it. Okay, fine. Okay, so what is the non-functional testing? In non-functional testing, what we do, we test the quality of the software. Okay, in functional testing, what we are doing, we were checking the
Functionality.
functional thing, whether
Mhm,
the functionality that the
mhm,
software is supposed to do, that is fulfilling or not. But in non-functional testing, we'll check the quality of the software. So what does the word quality mean? We'll check the performance of the software. Okay. We'll check
mhm,
how much scalable the software is. Okay. What about the security of the software? Okay. So all these things will be performed in the non-functional testing. And non-functional testing is also performed at all the levels of functional, at all the levels of testing. Okay. So what do you mean by all the levels? All the levels means in the unit testing or in the component testing level, we'll check how is the security of the code, right? So I'll give
mhm,
you an example. Say I have created the login functionality. Okay. And in the
mhm,
login functionality, uh, there are different type of users, right? Like
mhm,
as if you look at the amazon.com or say a banking software. Okay. So in the banking software, there are banking personals, and in the banking personnel as well, like the manager, the bank
mhm,
manager, the branch manager. So he should have access to everything. Now,
mhm.
a clerk, okay, or a cashier. So he should have access to only all the part
Yeah.
which his job role is involved into,
Mhm,
right? He shouldn't have access to the analytics or the total like there are things where he
yeah.
shouldn't have the access, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but while you are doing the component testing of the login functionality, you need to test the security, that whether a cashier is able to access the manager's account or not.
Mhm.
So that talks about the security.
Mhm.
Okay, so these are type of non-functional testing what is done at different level of testing as well. Like at the component testing level, you need to test that. At the integration level testing, at the system testing level, you need to test all these things. So this is also performed at all level of functional testing. Okay, now different, there are different things that are included in the non-functional testing. So what are those? This includes the performance testing, load testing, stress testing, usability testing, maintainability testing, reliability, portability testing. So these are the different type of non-functional testing. Now you might be thinking, what is load testing, what is stress testing? So basically we are going to cover these things in the upcoming session, but just for
Mhm.
now, you can see, you can understand that you have understood what is performance testing, right?
Mhm.
Okay, now load testing is, suppose I'm starting the performance testing with 10 users. Okay, now I'm
Mhm.
seeing that with 10 users the system is behaving correctly. I'm getting the response within 5 seconds, within 5 or 8 seconds, the page is loaded. The application is loaded. Now, what I'll do is I will make the user count to 100. Now, if hundreds of users are trying to access the system at the same time, what is the how the system is behaving? So this is
Mhm.
performance testing. This is also performance testing. Now I will keep increasing the load. So this
Mhm.
is called the load. Okay.
Okay.
Now
Load
load
test.
testing and stress testing, these are also related to performance testing.
Mhm.
Now I'll keep increasing the load. Now 100 users, I'll test it 500, or say 200 users, 300 users, then 500 users. So I'll keep increasing the load on the application. So this is called
Mhm.
load testing.
Mhm.
Okay. Now what is stress testing then? Stress testing is at which point the system is breaking down. Now suppose I have given that, okay, 1000 users are trying to, or say 5000 users are trying to access the system at the same time, at an at a given instance of time, and at that time I'm not getting any response from the server. I'm not able to load the system, or the application is not responding anything. So that point would be uh, referred as breakdown point, and that is the stress testing. I mean, at that point,
Is, isn't it similar to load testing? You're increasing the load.
yes, this is similar to stress load testing, but the difference is at the load testing level, the system should respond to you, but
Mhm.
at the stress testing level, the system should stop responding to you. It should break
Oh,
down.
great. Okay.
Okay. So
Mhm.
these are two types. So you can say that, okay, stress testing is also a performance testing then, because we are doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
But the expected behavior is different. In case of load
Mhm.
testing, maybe your the system is I mean, giving the response to you, but it's taking more time. When you are using
Mhm.
with 10 users, you are getting the response within 5 seconds. When you are using 100 users, now you will see that, okay, I'm getting the response after 10 seconds. The system is loading after 10 seconds. Now you have increased the load. Okay. If you have given the load of 500 users, now it's taking almost like 30 seconds to load the application.
Mhm.
So this is load testing. And stress
Okay.
testing is, suppose you are giving the load as 5000 user, you are not getting the response at all. So that is stress testing.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
we'll talk about this more. We'll see about the definition and all in the upcoming session. So I don't want to talk about this more in this class. Now usability testing. What is usability testing? Usability testing is, there could be different type of users, right? Because
Mhm.
there could be uh, users who are disabled, who can't see or who can't hear. So for those type of user, how they can use the system. So this is also a usability testing. And obviously this is not the functional testing, this is non-functional testing, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Portability testing, or there are other testings as well, which is called as localization testing. Which is, what is localization testing? The localization testing is a system should behave according to the uh, region uh, of the software. So if the software is, being used at France, so it might have the behavior with the French language as well,
Mhm.
right? So in Portugal, Portuguese, so it should, support that their language as well.
Mhm.
So that is called as localization testing. So whether the particular software, so that is also the requirement should be there. I think it's not like all the software should adhere to this thing, okay? But if the software has those features, those testing has to be performed as well.
Mhm.
So apart from that, there were other non-functional testing type as well that we were looking at yesterday, like if there are certain rules or regulations, okay, so based on that as well we need to test the software. So these things comes under non-functional testing.
Mhm.
Portability, in the portability, suppose you need to install the software uh, on different operating systems and all, then maybe you need to upgrade the software, okay? So whether those things are done, or those things are happening or not, so this comes under the maintainability or say portability. So these are the different type of non-functional testing, okay?
Mhm.
So functionality, we already know about the functionality. So this functionality is not about the non-functional and functional testing, okay? In non-functional testing, there are different type of functionality like the suitability, accuracy, security, interoperability, compliance. This compliance we are talking about. So these are all the different things that comes with the functionality of the application, okay?
Mhm.
Reliability is like fault tolerance, okay? Suppose the say we have an earthquake here, okay? Or like as you were mentioning that there is a network failure, okay?
Mhm.
So during the network failure, how the system is going to handle those situation, okay? So
Mhm.
this comes under the reliability thing. Recoverability, suppose there is a uh, the system has broke down, you know, the 5,000 or 10,000 users were trying to, access the system, and the system has broken down. So now from there, how the system will recover? So this comes under the reliability testing. And then there is usability testing. In the usability testing, learnability or operability, attractiveness, compliance, so these things comes under usability. So these are like the theoretical thing, you don't need to remember all these things, and these things are not required for from the interview perspective as well. So efficiency, how the resource utilization is done, compliance comes under this as well. Performance is something that will come here under the efficiency.
Mhm.
Then maintainability. So under the maintainability, what will be there? Like the changeability. Like there are different releases, right, of a software. And if there are
Mhm.
different releases happening, how are you able to change from one version to another version? The
Mhm.
stability of the software. So these things comes under maintainability. And obviously in the portability, like the adaptability, the installability. So these things comes under the portability.
Mhm.
So this is not very much important. This is good to know, but these are not important from the interview perspective as well. So about the black box and white box testing, we already know about that. So we are just left with the confirmation and regression testing, the regression testing and the Maintenance testing and other testing types. Okay, fine. Okay, so now we'll try to understand two different concepts like retesting and regression testing. So retesting is also called as confirmation testing. Okay, now I think a lot of thing are written here, but we are not going to see all this thing. Okay, I'll tell you about example first, and from there it will be very easy to understand what is retesting and regression testing, and after that we'll see what is written here.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's take the example of an application where there are four modules. Okay,
Mhm.
module A, module B, module C, and module D. Okay, now suppose the module A is an independent module.
Mhm.
Now this module B and module C, so those are dependent on module A.
Mhm.
Okay, and then module D is dependent on module B.
Mhm.
So you have got the idea, right? A is
Yeah.
an independent module, B
Mhm.
and C are dependent on A module, and D is
Mhm.
dependent on B module.
Mhm.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Now suppose you are testing. It can be at any level. Okay, it can be during the unit testing level or component testing level. It can be during the component integration testing level. It can be during the system testing, or it can be during the integration testing level. It can
Mhm.
be any level. So you are finding a bug in, say, module A.
Mhm.
Okay, the behavior is not correct, so you have logged the bug.
Okay.
You have also found a bug in module D.
Mhm.
Okay, and you have logged that bug as well.
Mhm.
So now when the developer has fixed the bug, say he has first fixed the bug of module D, because that was high priority high severity bug. So you remember
Mhm.
what is priority and severity,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so the bug from module D, that was a high priority high severity bug, and the bug from module A, that was a high severity low priority bug.
Mhm.
So which bug the developer should fix first?
D. D.
D,
D.
right? D, because that is a high priority high severity bug, and in
Yeah.
case of the bug with module A, that is low priority high severity bug.
Mhm.
Okay, now if the bug was high priority low severity from module A, so which bug the developer should fix first? So the
D.
bug D, exactly. Okay, and if the D, the type of the bug is of the module D is low priority and high severity.
A.
A, right?
Yeah.
Correct. So that's how we can relate the things. Okay,
Mhm.
fine. So now say the bug from the module A, that is of low priority high severity in nature, and the bug from module D is high priority high severity in nature. So now the developer will fix the bug from the module D first, and then he
Mhm.
will fix the bug from module A. Okay,
Mhm.
now when
Mhm.
the developer is fixing the bug from module D, once the bug is fixed, he will assign it to the tester. Say you have tested the modules, and you have assigned the so there is a defect lifecycle as well, which will come
Mhm.
later. So now the developer has fixed the bug and he has assigned it back to you. Now you need to make sure, you need to test that whether the developer has actually fixed the bug or not, whether
Mhm.
the functionality is working now or not, right?
Mhm.
So you'll
Mhm.
again test the functionality of the module or the bug, and after you are sure that okay, now it is working fine, you can close the bug.
Okay.
Now this thing is called as retesting or confirmation testing. Okay.
Okay. Testing
Now,
means testing that D again. After that
yes,
you fixed it, testing the D again is retesting.
yes, testing the bug again, right? So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
testing the bug again or testing the module again.
Mhm.
Now when the developer will fix the bug of module A, again at the same time, similarly, you will test module A or you will test the bug,
Mhm.
right? So this is retesting. So whenever a bug is fixed from a certain module, you are going
Mhm.
to retest that whether that bug is fixed or not, and the module is working as per expected behavior or not. So this is
Mhm.
called retesting.
Mhm.
Okay, so now let's see what is written there for retesting. But remember, we are going to use the same example for regression testing. Okay. Now the final target of testing is the testing of changes. The this category is slightly different to the others, because if you have made a change to the software, you will have changed the way it functions, the way it performs, or both, and its structure. However, we are looking here at the specific type of tests related to changes, even though they may include all of the other test types. Okay, so something you need to remember is when we are doing the confirmation testing or retesting, it's uh, referred or it's related to bug fixes. Okay, defect
Mhm.
fixation only. Now, what happens during the regression testing will come later. So let's see. When a test fails and we determine that the cause of the failure is a software defect, the defect is reported, and we can expect a new version of the software that has had the defect fixed. In this case, we will need to execute the test again to confirm that the defect has indeed been fixed. This is known as confirmation testing, also known as retesting. Any query from here?
No. No.
No, right? Whatever we have discussed, that is
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
When doing confirmation testing, it is important to ensure that the test is executed in exactly the same way as it was the first time, right? Because the
Mhm.
steps that you performed when you were initially testing it and you found the bug, you need to test again in the similar way, so that
Mhm.
you can see that okay, if I performed this test steps and I found this discrepancy, I need to perform the same test steps, and I need to check whether I'm getting that discrepancy right now or not, because the
So
developer have has yeah.
So that means the test steps are documented and we can use the same test steps.
Absolutely. I mean, you are writing the test cases, right? That's why the test
Mm.
cases are written. So you
Okay.
need to document your test steps in the form of test cases only.
Okay.
And when you are retesting, you need to test the exactly the same test case.
Okay.
So the documentation of test cases, the test scenarios, the test cases, and there are other type of documentation as well, which we'll talk later.
Mhm.
Okay. So and also, like, if you are logging the bug, no, you will you will use a tool. Okay, there are different type of tools available for defect logging, and as I mentioned you, there is a defect life cycle as well. So there are tool to track those defects, to handle those defects, and when you are logging that defect at the same time, you need to give all these details to the developer, because the developer has to know as well, right? What are the different steps, how I can get this reproduced, that
Mhm.
defect reproduced. So at that time as well, you need to give all the details, which version of the software you are using, which say browser you are testing, what is the test data, right? Which kind of user you are using to test that particular module or that particular test case, and then what is the test data you are using. Suppose if I take the example of the amazon.com, so what is the username and password of the user that you are testing with, what are his roles, which particular browser you are testing with, whether you are testing it on chrome browser or a safari browser or a firefox browser, and then what is your operating system, whether it is mac or it is windows. So all these details you need to provide to the developer. Okay.
Mhm.
And then when you are retesting it, you need to simulate the same pattern
Mhm.
so that you can make sure that okay, the defect has been fixed by the developer and you are good to go.
Okay.
So it is executed in exactly the same way as it was the first time, using the same inputs, data and environment. So that's what I was telling you. If the test now passes, does this mean that the software is now correct? Well, we now know that at least one part of the software is correct where the defect was, right? So when you
Mhm.
are verifying this, you can say that okay, now the module D is working fine. When you have checked the functionality of module A, you can say that module A is now working fine. But this is not enough. The fix may have introduced or uncovered a different defect elsewhere in the software. The way to defect this unexpected side effects of fixes is to do regression testing. Now we'll talk about regression testing. Okay.
Mhm.
So do you
Mhm.
have any query from the confirmation testing
No,
or retesting?
no, no.
Great. Now let's see what is regression testing and go back to the previous example. So now what was there? There was module A and module B and module C were related to module A, right?
Mhm.
And module D was also there, which was dependent on module B. So now we can say that module D is also dependent on module A.
Mhm. Because it's dependent on module B and B is
Yes.
connected to A. Yeah.
But is module D dependent on module C? No, right?
Not directly.
No. If you think indirectly as well, how does it depend on the module C? Because module,
Because yeah, B and A
yes,
is also
C is
connected to
dependent
A.
on module A. C
A,
is
yeah,
dependent on module A, right? A is
yeah,
not
yeah,
dependent on module C.
yeah.
So that's why D is dependent on module A and module B, not C.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, fine. Okay, so now let's go back to the example where cha- uh, you have found a bug defect on module A and the
Mm-hmm.
developer has fixed the bug from module A.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as module B, module C, and module D, all these modules are dependent on module A. So
Mm-hmm.
they are depending on some functionality of module A. Some data is flowing from module A to module B and module C. Then some
Yeah.
data is flowing from module B to module D. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
all these modules are dependent on module A, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, when the developers are making some changes in module A, right, to fix the
Yeah.
code or to add
Mm-hmm.
some functionality in the code. So there could be
Mm-hmm.
two scenarios. Okay. First one, you have found a bug in that module, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's why the developers are fixing that bug and they are making some changes.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing would be the client has asked for some additional functionality, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why they are making the code changes to add those functionalities.
Mm-hmm.
So in both the cases they are making changes in the code base, they are making the
Mm-hmm.
changes in the internal structure, whether they are fixing some defect or they are adding some functionality.
Mhm.
Now, as module B, module C, and module D is depending on module A, and there are some code changes in module A, it might happen that that code change might affect the module B, module C, and module D.
Yeah.
Okay, it might also happen that module A is working fine. When you are testing the module A, when you are doing your confirmation testing or retesting for the bug fix on the module A is working fine. The bug you are testing, that is also working fine now. Okay,
Mhm.
but it could introduce new bug in the dependent module,
Yeah.
and that's why when you are doing your retesting and you are making sure that the bug has been fixed, after
Mhm.
that you need to perform some of regression testing as well, some of the testing on module B, C, and D as well, so that you can make sure that the code changes has not introduced some new bug in module C in the dependent modules.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
now if there are any code changes in module C, do you need to verify any other module? Do you need to go and do some regression testing in other module?
In A,
In C,
oh, in C, no, no. But A would have affected C, so we just test C.
yes. A in if we are making the code changes in module A, then we need to do the
Test
regression
C.
testing on B, C, and D, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because all these modules are somehow related to module A.
Yeah.
But if we are making some changes in module C,
Mm.
then do we need to perform regression testing?
No.
No, exactly. If we are performing any changes in module B, do we need to perform any regression testing?
No.
No, right. If we are performing any changes in module B, do we need to perform any kind of regression testing in case of module B?
D
Yes, D is
affected separately.
correlated
Yeah.
with module
Yeah.
B. So in that case, we need to test D as well. But if we are
Yeah.
making changes anything in module D, we don't need to perform any kind of regression testing, right?
What about D? If it is, if you're making changes in D, don't we have to do regression testing for B?
Why? D is dependent on B, right? B is not
Yeah.
dependent on D.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. Is it clear?
B is connect. No, D is connected to B.
Yes.
So if you make changes in D, won't it affect D?
No. Because B is not dependent on D.
Oh, okay.
D is dependent
D
on
is
B.
dependent on
The,
B. Okay.
the same reason when you are
As
making
A,
changes in
yeah.
C, you are not
Yeah.
verifying A,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. 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 I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, the same logic.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see what is written here. So now the concept is clear, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. When any modification or changes are done to the application, or even when any small change is done to the code, then it can bring unexpected issues. Along with the new changes, it becomes very important to test whether the existing functionality is intact or not. This can be achieved by doing the regression testing. Purpose of regression testing: the purpose of the regression testing is to find the bugs which may get introduced accidentally because of the new changes or modification. During confirmation testing, the defect got fixed and that part of application started working as intended. But there might be a possibility that the fix may have introduced or uncovered a different defect elsewhere in the software. The way to detect these unexpected side effects or fixes is to do regression testing. This
Mhm.
also ensures that the bugs found earlier are not creatable. Okay.
Mhm.
Usually the regression testing is done by automation tools, because in order to fix the defect. The same test is carried out again and again, and it will be very tedious and the time consuming to do it manually. So one thing that I want to mention here is, if you have the automation test coverage, then only it's done through automation tools. If you don't have the automation test coverage, then it is done manually only.
Mhm.
Okay. During regression testing, the test cases are prioritized depending upon the changes done to the feature or module in the application. The feature or module where the changes or modification is done, that entire feature is taken into priority for testing. Okay.
Mhm.
This testing becomes very important when there are continuous modifications or enhancement done in the application or product. These changes or enhancements should not introduce new issues in the existing tested code. So that's why we are doing the regression testing, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
This helps in maintaining the quality of the product along with the new changes in the application. So
Okay.
now one thing that you should understand is, when we are testing the uh, we're doing the regression testing, do we need to execute all the test cases of say B, module B or module A? No, you don't
No,
need
no,
to do.
only, yeah,
You just need to check the what are the things which are related to the changes.
yeah.
Okay. And based on that, you can create a set of test cases, you can identify a set of test cases, and you can execute those set of test cases just to make sure that nothing is affecting the system.
Okay.
Okay, we are good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So now the maintenance testing. So once software is deployed, or it is in the production, at that time we can have different changes, and we can have some production bugs, or there could be the chance of new functional addition. So those we need to support the maintenance, and at that time we need to do the testing. Okay.
Mhm.
So we you remember the life cycle, right? So there was a maintenance phase
Mhm.
in the software development life cycle. So this maintenance testing is done during the maintenance
Okay.
phase. So this is consisting of two part: testing the changes that has been made because of the correction in the system, or if the system is extended, or because of some additional feature added to it.
So
Right?
at this phase, the customer is there, right?
Yes,
Is
yes.
using the product. Yeah.
They are using the product. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So if there are any bugs that are found, or you have added some new feature, so for those you need to perform the testing, right? So
Mhm.
basically it's a testing or retesting, right? This is
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
testing or retesting. And apart from that, you need to do a regression test as well, right? Regression
Mhm.
test to prove that the rest of the system has not been affected by the maintenance work. So you
Mhm.
need to do the testing or retesting of the bugs, and apart from that, you need to do the regression testing of the bug.
Okay.
Okay, so these are two type of maintenance testing, and finally we have um, some other type of testing. Okay, now we'll go through this quickly. So what is ad hoc testing? So these are some type of testing. So in ad hoc testing, so what we normally do in case of our normal testing, we have the set of documented test cases, and we test the application according to those test cases. So
Mhm.
we open a test case, we see that what are the test cases that are written there, and accordingly we perform the testing. Okay, so that is the normal testing. Now, what
Mhm.
is ad hoc testing? So this ad hoc testing is unstructured and is informal. Okay, so this is normally done by the client, or normally done by the stakeholder, and they don't refer to any test case or any test design document. Okay, so they have the basic knowledge, they have the good knowledge of the business, so they don't refer to the test cases or any document. They will just do the testing. So they have the good understanding of the domain and the workflow, how is the flow of the application. So they will try to do the testing abruptly, and they will try to find the bug in the software. So that is called ad hoc testing. So you can just, so just we'll just understand the concept. You can later go through the text and understand it, and then if you have any query you can ask me, but I don't think
Yeah.
you'll have any query. The same thing is written here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what is
Okay.
end to end testing? End to end testing is basically testing the product from the start to the end. Okay. This ad hoc testing, maybe you are just testing a particular feature, okay, of the software. You are not, checking the test cases, but you are testing just one of the feature of the testing of the software. But in case of end to end testing, you are testing all the features that are present in the application, okay, right from the beginning to the end. So this is basically the end to end flow of the testing. So when you are doing the end to end testing, it it is possible that you are referring to the test case. It might also be possible that you are not referring to the test case, but you need to cover all the features of the application.
Does it
Okay.
mean it's like system testing?
Yes, in system testing you need to perform end to end testing.
Oh.
Okay. So this testing is performed by the testing team, and the focus is to test end-to-end flows. Example, right from order creation till reporting, or order creation till item return, etc. End-to-end testing is usually focused on mimicking real-life scenarios and usage. End-to-end testing involves testing information flow across applications. Understood?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what is exploratory testing? So this is also an informal type of testing conducted to learn the software, at the same time looking for errors or application behavior that seems non-obvious. So what is the difference between ad hoc testing and exploratory testing then? In ad hoc testing, the tester or whoever is testing, he knows the exact behavior of the application, right? But in case of exploratory testing, the the tester doesn't know about all the features, so he is trying to learn about the software, and at the same time he's trying to find the bugs. Okay. So exploratory testing is usually done by the testers, but can be done by the other stakeholders as well as business analysts, developer and user, etc., who are interested in learning functions of the software, and at the same time looking for errors or behaviors it seems non-obvious. Okay. So exploratory testing is basically like you are trying to learn the software, you are using it for the first time, so you are trying to learn about the software, but your goal is to find the bug as well. Okay. Now, what about load testing? It is a type of non-functional testing and is done to check the behavior of the software under normal and over peak load condition. So this was we were already talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is usually performed using automated testing tool. Load testing intends to find bottlenecks or issues that prevent software from performing as intended as its peak workload. So this is, I guess, fine.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, the smoke testing. It is a type of testing that is carried out by software testers to check if the new build provided by the development team is stable enough. Major functionality is working as expected. In order to carry out further or detailed testing, smoke testing is intended to find showstopper defects that can prevent tester from testing the application in detail. Smoke testing carried out for a build is known as build verification test. I'll just give you an example, and that will be the last topic of today. So suppose you have logged a defect, okay, or suppose you have the developers have um, given you the build for the first time, and you need to perform your testing there. So it's not a good strategy, directly to go to the test cases and take all the steps from there and start verifying whether the system is behaving correctly or not. No. First, what you'll do, you'll install the application, and you'll just go through the pages, go through the application, just to check that whether the build is stable enough or not, whether you are
mm,
able to navigate to different pages or not. So
mm,
if you are not able to do so, suppose you are launching the application and you are getting some error. Okay, you are opening amazon.com and it's giving you some error. You are trying to log in and you are getting the error. So these are the very basic functionality and that is
mm,
not working. So you can't continue with your testing in that case, right? It's
mm,
you can't continue. This is showstopper, right? This is a showstopper defect, and uh, you need to log it as soon as possible, right?
mm,
With high
mm,
priority, high severity defect. So
mm,
this is called smoke testing. When you are getting the build from the developer, you just don't start the formal testing. You need to do this smoke testing. And what is smoke testing? Smoke testing is just to make sure that build is stable enough to perform our further or detailed testing. So that is called smoke testing.
mm.
So there is something which is known as sanity testing. And on Monday, the first thing that I'll ask you, what is the difference between smoke testing and sanity testing? So these are
What,
related.
what is the second word?
Sanity.
Smoke test, sanity. Okay, okay.
Yes. So your task is to do some research. What is sanity testing and what is the difference between smoke testing and sanity testing? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so this is the first thing that we'll discuss about on Monday. You need to tell me what is sanity testing and what is the difference between smoke testing and sanity testing. And if you're not clear, then I'll tell you. Okay, no
Okay,
issues.
okay.
So this is your tasks for the weekend. Apart from, I'll recommend you, if you get some time, start with the first session. You have this PPT, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
just take a look. Just spend some time, maybe 1 hour or 1.5 hour. Just go through all these things so that you can relate to each other.
Okay,
Okay, and then if you have any query, just note those down, and you can ask me on Monday as well.
okay, sure.
So you're having two tasks. The first one is, you know, to understand what is sanity testing, and then to understand what is the difference between sanity testing and smoke testing. These are very much related to each other, so I don't think we'll be having any issues to understand it. But even if you have, so I'll get those clarified. No issues.
Oh, oh, thank you
Okay,
so much.
so these are the
Okay.
different topics that we are going to cover the next day. There are static and dynamic technique of testing. Then we'll recognize software work products. What are the different products that we get in the static technique? Then different phases, role and responsibility of a typical formal review. Then describe the importance and value of considering static technique. So basically we are going to talk about the static technique and the review role and responsibility on the next
Mm,
session on Monday. Okay,
okay.
thank you
Mm-hmm.
for joining. I hope you
Oh,
don't
you're
have any
welcome.
query right now.
No, not right now.
Okay, okay, great. Have a
Thank.
great weekend and let's meet on Monday.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Have a good
Mm.
night and good weekend. Bye.
Okay, you have a nice day. Bye.